Greetings everyone! In this lesson, we cover some tool Unreal has to create outdoor scenes with landscapes. We will first dive into the sculpting of the actual terrain, and we will then move on to making the material and painting on it, even with meshes. So without further ado, let's jump right in. The main advantage of using the landscape tool to create your open worlds is the ability to subdivide the resolution only when the player is near, allowing efficient memory usage. To start creating your own landscape, go to Modes, Landscape, or Shift 2. Now you will be prompted with a new panel with basic properties. You can change the number of tiles, overall resolution, and the possibility to import a grayscale image of a terrain elevation made in another software. Default settings should work just fine, so let's stick with that. Hit Create when ready. A gray plane is now created and your cursor will be replaced with a brush. You can start sculpting by clicking on the terrain. On the left, a panel will let you dial in the strain of the brush, the size, and its fall off. You can turn on Use Clay Brush to have the accumulation effect of clay sculpting. If you hold Shift while clicking, you will dig into the ground instead of adding. Up the toolbar, a few sculpting tools are available. The Smooth will let you soften some parts of the terrain. The Flatten will level the ground lower or higher. The Ramp can help you to create roads or cliffs. Using the Erosion tool, simulate the weather effects on your terrain. The same thing for the Hydro Brush, simulating the effect of rain through the years. The Noise Brush will add variations in height. You can even mirror your terrain if you like. Maybe masking some bit of the terrain to sculpt around? Going back to the default sculpt mode, we can change the brush for different results. Change the default circle to alpha to use any texture to sculpt. You can also set the texture as a pattern for repeating features. Using components, you can elevate individual tiles. Up the toolbar, we can change our toolset. Go in Manage to be able to select some tiles and delete them, adding some, or create another terrain. You might wonder how to get rid of those black lines. Simple. Bake your lights. Now that we've done a sculpting pass, let's take care of colors. For this, you will need a material that can blend between multiple layers of textures using a paintbrush. So let's get to work. I've selected 3 types of surface for that example, but you could add more if you want. I've also imported height maps to blend between textures in a more natural way. Create a new master material for the landscape. In here, we will drag our textures in and we want to place them in a layered fashion, from bottom to top. You should have the same order for colors and normals. If you use height maps, place it just next to color. Convert your textures to parameters if you want to change them later in your instances. Our textures are now properly placed. We will now add a landscape coordinates to control tiling of our textures. Multiply by a scalar parameter to control the value. Connect these coordinates to all your textures. Now to blend between all of these textures, add a Layer Blend node under the Landscape category. In the Details panel, click the plus sign to add layers, in my case, 3. Rename each layers accordingly. For the first layer, blend type should be set to weight with a preview of 1. This will ensure the base layer is applied everywhere by default. The second layer blend type should be set to height if you used a height map. Here I did, but I won't be changing the preview weight this time. Do the same thing for the last layer. Now connect your textures to the appropriate inputs, and that takes care of our colors. I don't have any roughness maps, so I'll simply create a scatter parameter to control roughness. Moving on to normal maps. Duplicate the layer blend and place it next to our normals. Here we will only change the top layer blend type to weight instead of height. Make the appropriate connections, and this takes care of the normals. Group your textures together using the C key, apply, and save. Now create an instance of that master. With your terrain selected, drag the instance in the material slot. Unreal might compile a bit and you should be seeing only darkness on your material. To start painting, go back in landscape mode and now up in the toolbar, go into Paint. The panel on the left will display the layers we've created before, but if you select one and try to paint, you will get an error. This is because we need to store the painting information somewhere. On each layer, click the plus sign to create a layer info. Select Weight Blended Layer and save this file anywhere you want. Now, if you select any layer, you can start painting. If you feel there is no details, your tiling might be too high. Change the value in your instance. To paint another texture, simply change the layer selection. Just like sculpting, you can change paintbrush to use different alphas. Before ending this lesson, let me introduce you to a really useful tool to scatter rocks and other repeated mesh around while maintaining performances. Change the mode to Foliage. Here, you can add models to the panel on the left, and these will be placed when painting in your level. This is useful for foliage, but can be used to quickly place any objects. You can control variations in size, density, and paint multiple meshes in a single stroke. This wraps it up for this lesson. This was an overview of what you can do with landscapes, but by practicing and trying out different sculpting and materials, you can achieve a really cool result for your next open world game. Until next time, you take care and have fun with it.